Coming at number 10, we have Katy Perry. Katy Perry has had some pretty embarrassing moments when she forgot the name of her old school friend on Jimmy Kimmel Live. When Jimmy showed Katy 6 people and told her one of them was part of her life, Katy would be left mortified as she forgot her school friend's name. After identifying the person correctly against 5 strangers, Katy excitedly said, "Oh my god, stop. I know who this is, Erica." Her friend would then correct her by saying, "Annika, yeah." Katy then tried to redeem herself by saying, "We were really good friends, Annika. What an incredibly beautiful woman you've grown into." But the conversation would soon take a different turn as Annika, who was friends with Katy in 6th and 7th grade at Santa Barbara Christian School, was quizzed by Jimmy. When asked if she had any good stories about Katy, she said, "My stories about Katy kind of all revolve around the chest." She would then explain that during a sleepover at her house, Katy told her and her sister that they couldn't wear a bra to bed because it would crush their chest and it would never grow. She would then also reveal that Katy once even lifted up her shirt in the locker room to reveal that she was wearing 2 bras. Katy would then add that she remembered the 2 were also pretty mischievous. And number 9, Beyonce. Now Beyonce definitely looked stunning when she took the stage for the 2013 Super Bowl Pepsi halftime show, but in the process she had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction during her performance. Beyonce would be rocking this super tight black ensemble when she performed some of her greatest hits during the Super Bowl, but it seems like all the double-sided tape in the world couldn't keep her chest in her top. Thanks to Janet Jackson, every Super Bowl, this exact wardrobe malfunction haunts every performer's dreams. While everything seemed to have gone perfectly smooth and according to the plan, minus the whole power outage thing, there was soon speculation that Beyonce made the ultimate Super Bowl boo-boo. With Beyonce stressing about this performance as it was such a big deal for her and somewhat of a homecoming, Beyonce was so proud to even have the moment, and she even stated that having the opportunity to perform at the Super Bowl halftime show was all thanks to her hard work she's done in her very successful career. Well, unlike Janet Jackson, the star didn't end up getting cancelled from the embarrassing wardrobe malfunction. She actually ended up getting praised. Even Demi Lovato would write, "Y'all can keep watching the game, but I think it's safe to say Beyonce just won the Super Bowl." Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming in number 8, we have Christina Aguilera. Now, the national anthem can be pretty tough to sing, and when you sing the Star Spangled Banner at a huge event like the World Series, the pressure can be pretty intense that you tend to screw it up on purpose, and other times, well, you just get caught up in the moment and forget where you are. Back in 2011, Christina Aguilera would have the chance to sing the anthem at the Super Bowl, and she had a pretty embarrassing moment when she fumbled the lyrics pretty hard, and Aaron Lewis would even slam her for it by saying, "I guess I don't understand how people who sing the national anthem can be so effing self-absorbed that they would try to change the effing song. If there's a single song in history of this country that deserves no creative interpretation, it's that one." Lewis, of course, was just as embarrassed as Christina was after she flubbed the anthem, as she would head to her Facebook to say, "All I can say is I'm sorry and ask for the nation's forgiveness. My nerves got the best of me and I am completely torn up about what happened. America is the greatest country in the world. The Star-Spangled Banner means so much to many, including myself. I hope everyone can understand the intensity of the situation and my true intent for this performance." Number 7, Jennifer Lawrence. So back in February 2013, Jennifer Lawrence would momentarily silence the crowd at the Oscars when she took a tumble on the stage stairs while she was trying to accept her Academy Award for Best Actress that night. The Hunger Games star's face could then be seen planted in her pink gown. While she didn't end up getting back up to accept the night's top honor, she still thinks about the award show fail. Jennifer would then reflect on a moment during an interview in October 2021 when she recalled feeling nervous and very superstitious before taking a Golden Globe statue for her role in the 2012 Silver Linings Playbook. Jennifer would say, "I was very nervous, but I was ready." All of her adrenaline clears out, and when they called her name, she was elevated in shock that she fell, and it erased everything from her mind. Her brain went blank, and it took some time, for a very long time, and the fall was actually really sensitive to her. While many claimed that Jennifer faked the fall, she would be left feeling humiliated and would even explain that she didn't even know if she would ever have the chance to have a speech like this again, and it didn't feel good for her to have the speech that she had. While the star did end up receiving a standing ovation ovation. She would even state that everyone only gave her a standing ovation is because they felt bad about how she fell and had a super embarrassing moment. Number 6, Fergie. So back in 2017, Fergie would attend the Trevor's Projects for the Trevor Live LA Gala, which honored Tom Ford that year. As Armie Hammer stood on the stage presenting Tom with the Hero Award, Fergie walked onto the stage unexpectedly. While some thought it was just part of an act, it would soon be discovered it was all unplanned. While Armie realized she was on the stage, he would go, "Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, Fergie." Fergie would then say, "No, I'm not Fergie, I'm actually Armie Hammer. Thank you, I'm going to win the Academy Awards. Thanks." So this is unexpected. And in a typical Tom Ford style, I think he would love that. If he was here, while Tom was actually in attendance, he was sitting at the head table, Fergie would go on to talk about how amazing he was and how she was embarrassed that she didn't have Tom Ford makeup in her bag. Fergie would then finish her rant by claiming she was still Armie. While she exited the stage, Armie tried to make light of the stage crashing by saying, "If I had a nickel for every time I was confused with Fergie." Seems like Fergie had no shame that night as she proceeded to go on the stage again when there were sound issues, and she attempted to suddenly lead the crowd in a sing-along of her song "A Little Work," which only a few people, if anyone in the crowd, actually knew the words. Number 5, Ben Affleck. Back in 2016, Ben Affleck would make an odd appearance on Any Given Wednesday with Bill Simmons. During the show, Ben would be seen ranting and cursing around 20 plus times. He would then even bring up his past relationship with Jennifer Lopez and blamed her for being responsible for his career taking a hard nosedive. He then blamed Jen for ruining his career, and he said his wife at the time, Jennifer Garner, was his rock and supporter during his comeback years when he won another Academy Award back in 2012. A source then revealed that when Ben arrived for the HBO show interview, he was slurring his words and looked bloated. They would then continue to say that Ben humiliated himself clearly by being under the influence on TV and that it wouldn't be easy for him to live that down. It said that Jennifer was so embarrassed with her husband's actions that she couldn't understand why her husband at the time thought it was a good idea to go on national TV under the influence. Number 4, Drew Barrymore. Even to this day, Drew Barrymore still feels ashamed over her behavior on Watch What Happens Live in 2018. While chatting with Andy Cohen for her digital series, The Drew Barrymore Show, the actress would apologize for being under the influence for her appearance. Drew would say, "It was on your show, and I drank too much, and I have never forgiven myself, nor will I ever forgive myself. Whatever personal things I do, nobody sees it. Although I'm an imperfect person, and I toot that, I have had the liberty since I was a kid because it was always out there. And it was either boo-hoo about it or say, oh God. It's sort of redeeming to not have to pretend to be perfect. But I really want to apologize to you because I really will never let it happen again." While the incident had a lasting impact on Drew, Andy actually didn't remember it at all, especially because celebrities are often spotted being under the influence on his show. Andy would even say, "I'm used to people being overserved on my shows, so I don't even really have a clear memory of it. But you don't need to apologize to me for being overserved on my shows. That happens. You're in a great club of people." That didn't stop Drew though from being embarrassed, as she was actually caught slurring words on camera that night. Number 3, Dakota Johnson. Dakota Johnson has become one of the most bankable celebrities in the industry thanks to her performances in countless blockbuster movies, including her erotic trilogy films, 50 Shades of Grey. However, Dakota would find herself so embarrassed by her mom that she once snapped out on her own mother during an award show. During the Oscars red carpet event, Dakota Johnson and her mother, Melanie Griff, were being interviewed by a couple of reporters, which Melanie would state that she refused to watch Dakota's erotic films. Prior to this interview, Melanie would also say the same thing during the 87th Academy Awards, which happened in 2015. Talking about the Oscars red carpet interview, Melanie, who was standing alongside her daughter Dakota, was asking if she watched the film 50 Shades of Grey, to which she immediately denied and very uncomfortably said, "She's a good actress, I don't need to see it to know how good she is." Hearing that, Dakota would then turn red, and she ended up snapping on her mom by saying, "Alright, you don't have to see it." During the same interview, Melanie was then asked if she would find any of the scenes in the movie awkward, and Dakota would jump to answer the question by saying, "It's a movie, she knows that." Later it would be reported that Melanie actually tried to calm things down between herself and her daughter by saying she would only see the movie if Dakota asked her to. Coming in at number 2, we have Whoopi Goldberg. So live television is tough because anything can go wrong at any moment, like letting one rip in the middle of a segment. And that's what happened to Whoopi Goldberg, who passed gas for quite a long time right in the middle of singer Ashanti's sentence. While the fart in question sounded more like a leaking car tire than the cartoon sound we're all accustomed to hearing, Whoopi could be seen after saying "excuse me, oh," after the audible blow. The panel and audience would then erupt into fits of laughter before Rosie O'Donnell walked away from the desk and started to wave her hands in an attempt to get rid of the smell. But on the subsequent tape of the show, Whoopi cleared the air and said she was joking when she pretended the flat sound was a fart by saying there was a sound effect we've never heard before, and I'm thinking, this is weird, what can I do? Oh, I'm gonna pretend I let something go as a joke. However, this wouldn't be the first time Whoopi farted on air. Back in 2011, she passed gas and she said she let a frog out. And number 1, Miley Cyrus. A wardrobe malfunction was banned to happen to Miley Cyrus at one point. So we all weren't surprised when she had a Janet Jackson moment while hosting the VMAs, just seconds after Taylor Swift picked up the gong for the best music video for Epic Bad Blood collaboration. The camera swung over to Miley, who was in the middle of a costume change and behind a black curtain in her dressing room. While the star could be seen looking wide-eyed and at the camera, it quickly cut away from Miley and she told the crowd, "Oh, what's happening? Oh, sorry, my chest is out." Now, we all imagined she had this plan and she didn't care about being exposed on a live show with millions watching. However, by how fast she was to cover up again, she was surrounded by a backstage crew who looked pretty stunned as well when it happened. It clearly was an embarrassing moment for the star, and while it definitely wasn't her fault that the cameras jumped backstage way before it was her time to go on camera, she was still open-minded to the situation. Even though you could tell she was pretty embarrassed, she didn't let it affect her and she went on with the rest of the show with smiles.
Coming in at number 10, Ashlee Simpson. This one certainly takes a cake when we're talking about uncomfortable live TV appearances. How could we forget the time Ashlee Simpson performed on Saturday Night Live and was caught lip-syncing? In 2004, when booked to perform 2 songs on the show, Simpson ran through a rendition of her single Pieces of Me without a hitch. However, when the pop star returned to the stage to run through the title track of her debut album, Autobiography, things took a turn for the worst. While the band began to play the song, the vocals for the first track began to play and Simpson paused in horror. The lip-syncing plot had totally collapsed. Clearly panicking, she looked around at the band with the microphone held by her side, with the vocals still beating out unnervingly loud. After pulling off a series of improvised awkward dance moves, she walks off the stage and producers cut the performance and head to a commercial. It was a hugely embarrassing moment that only got worse when she returned to the stage and tried to blame it on her band. To this day, it stands as one of the biggest live TV fails ever. Number 9, Cara Delevingne. In the middle of a promotional tour for her new film, Paper Towns, Cara Delevingne appeared on Good Day Sacramento and went on to have one of the most awkward interviews ever. First off, the anchors called her Carla instead of Cara. Then they proceeded to ask her whether or not she had read the John Green book on which the film is based, and why she didn't seem more excited to be on the show despite making millions from the movie. But Cara was clearly not having it and pretty much refused to respond to their questions. Instead, she took a bit more of a sarcastic approach, but the anchors pushed back and almost seemed to be mocking her the whole time. Quote, "You do seem a bit irritated, maybe it was just us." But when Cara agreed with her, the host said, "We'll let you take a little nap and maybe get a Red Bull," essentially kicking her off the show. Despite being tired after the final premiere for the film the night before, Cara soldiered on at first, but the show was clearly trying to embarrass her because she wasn't going to play ball with their patronizing questions. Number 8, Justin Bieber. On the first night of his world tour, Justin Bieber didn't throw up once, but he threw up twice. After vomiting all over the center stage, the teen star blamed his stomach issues on drinking too much milk before the concert. But unfortunately, the puke fest was all captured on camera. The concert in Glendale, Arizona started out okay and everything seemed to be going well and fine until he started performing Out of Town Girl, which meant he had to get very physical, running upstairs and getting really groovy with the backup dancers. But the movements proved a little bit too much for Bieber as suddenly he turned his back to the crowd, bent over and straight up barfed. He then rushed backstage as a panic and embarrassment set in. A few minutes later, he returned and tried to slow the songs down because he was still feeling a little bit queasy, but clearly his stomach was still not having it and he ran off stage again. He told the crowd, quote, "It's hard for me, you know, not feeling great and throwing up in front of a bunch of people. Will you love me even though I'm throwing up on stage?" And his die-hard teenage fans cheered in approval. A few days later, the singer finally tweeted a reason for his retching and just wrote that milk before a concert was a bad choice. Number 7, Janet Jackson. The infamous wardrobe malfunction that shook the entertainment world happened on stage during the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show to none other than Janet Jackson. No one could forget when Janet and Justin Timberlake performed Rock Your Body, and as Timberlake reached the final note, he pulled off a piece of Jackson's costume, which was essentially her bra cup, and flashed an estimated 143 million viewers. According to Janet's publicist, the moment was only meant to reveal her red bra underneath, but a wardrobe malfunction resulted in the entire thing coming off. Viewers were shocked. Janet's career spiraled and immediate scandal ensued. Since then, the incident has inspired numerous performances, songs, and TV episodes. In fact, last year, FX and Hulu released a documentary called Malfunction, the dressing down of Janet Jackson, which aimed to explore the racial and cultural currents that collided on the Super Bowl stage. Interestingly enough, the stylist who was behind Janet's Super Bowl look, Wayne Scott Lucas, told Page Six that Justin was behind it all because he wanted to upstage Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and Madonna, who kissed at the 2003 MTV Music Video Awards just a few months earlier. Number 6, Kendall Jenner. The Keeping Up with the Kardashians star obviously had Harry Styles on her mind when she accidentally introduced the band 5 Seconds of Summer as One Direction during the 2014 Billboard Music Awards. Kendall got off to a good start, beginning her introduction with, "The band about to rock the Billboard Awards comes from down under, but the direction they're heading is straight up." Recently, they made their debut at 2 on the Billboard 200. She continued with, "Now we welcome One," and it seemed like she was ready to say direction when she completely realized her mistake and laughed uncomfortably. She apologized, saying, "Guys, I'm the worst reader." Luckily for her, a brief recorded intro segment took Kendall out of her embarrassment for a second before the spotlight came back to her. This time she finally got the name right, yelling 5 Seconds of Summer as the boys jumped into their song. The whole incident was pretty bad, but I wouldn't call it the most humiliating thing that's ever happened on live TV. Of the awkward scale, it was probably a 6 at most. Number 5, Madonna. Fans have named Madonna's epic fall on stage at the Brit Awards as the most embarrassing moment in the show's history. The cape incident during the 2015 Brit Awards is something that will never be forgotten. What happened exactly? Well, Madonna was closing out the show as she was performing her new single at the time called Living for Love. As a part of her routine, she stood on the top of a platform on stage and attempted to untie the floor-length cape that she was wearing. Her backup dancers tried to remove the garment, but they pulled it back so strongly that instead it dragged her backwards down 3 steps and she went tumbling. Madonna was forced to stop singing as the panicked dancers helped her stand up, but after a few seconds of recovery, she went on to complete her performance. The 63-year-old issued a statement later saying that she was fine and that her cape had been tied too tight. To make matters worse, an average of 5.3 million people tuned into the ceremony on ITV. So the instant that Madonna hit the deck, you know that was the only aspect of the Brit Awards that people were going to be talking about the next day. Number 4, John Travolta. He was introducing Idina Menzel to sing Let It Go from Frozen, and he completely butchered her name in front of thousands of viewers. On the night, Travolta introduced her by saying he'd perform the Oscar-nominated, gorgeously empowering song Let It Go from the Oscar-winning animated movie Frozen. Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem. It was extremely funny to say the least. And when asked about the mishap, Travolta said, "I've been beating myself up all day." Then I thought, what would Idina Menzel say? She'd say, "Let it go." Of course, it was embarrassing, but his situation is pretty relatable to me considering that I mess up celebrity names all the time. The moment has been discussed and referenced a lot since then, but Menzel recently revealed exactly what was going through her head when Travolta butchered her name. In an interview with James Corden, doing carpool karaoke, she said, "I had 8 seconds after he screwed up my name. First, I really felt sorry for myself. Like Meryl Streep's out there, it's my big break and he just effed up my name. But according to Menzel, when the band started, she didn't have time to think about it and just went right on with the show. Number 3, 50 Cent. Over the past few years, we've seen some absolutely terrible attempts involving celebrities throwing out first pitches. For instance, Carly Rae Jepsen's infamously terrible pitch was pretty great to watch. But not for 1 second does anyone doubt that 50 Cent's pitch tops the list because of that one fateful Mets game in 2014. Despite winding up in a normal motion and finishing with his foot forward, he threw the ball at least 20 feet to the left of the home plate. In fact, when his hand released the ball, it went so far off target that it almost hit the camera crew. The rapper managed to embarrass himself in front of the whole Mets stadium and its fans, as well as on live TV. The whole thing gets worse when you consider how hyped up he was to pitch in the first place, because he had been dreaming of that moment for a very long time, and it would have sucked to mess up in front of his idols and their fans. Number 2, Mariah Carey. Everyone remembers the painful moment when the 53-year-old singer fumbled her way through 3 cringe-inducing performances on New Year's Rockin' Eve with Ryan Seacrest in 2016. Mariah was the last pre-midnight guest on ABC's special, which was plagued with sound problems, and for her very first number, it became clear that she could not hear the backup vocals heard on her live broadcast, causing her to get flustered. Not only that, but the issue didn't get much better as the singer moved into her second song, Emotions. From that point on, she barely sang, but instead talked to the audience, saying, "We didn't have a sound check for this song, so we'll just say it went to number 1 and that's what it is, okay? Well, Happy New Year! We can't hear, but it'll just get through the moment." Although Mariah was visibly frustrated, she gets points for hanging in there and not abandoning the stage altogether. The incident went viral online and was extremely humiliating for the singer, despite the fact that the technical issues were not actually her fault. But Twitter, of course, was pretty unforgiving and exploded with memes in full force as the disaster unfolded. And coming in at number 1, Steve Harvey. While he has proven to be a reliable pageant host for the past 3 years, it's nearly impossible to forget his giant fail in front of millions back in 2015, which will likely go down in history as Steve Harvey's most embarrassing moment. So what happened exactly? Well, he wrongly announced that Miss Colombia had won the competition, when in fact it was Miss Philippines. After he announced Colombia as the winner, he left the stage and Adriana Gutierrez was crowned. But the cheering had already begun when Steve awkwardly had to walk back on stage and revoke his declaration. Quote, "I have to apologize. The first runner-up is Colombia, Miss Philippines. Take your walk as Miss Universe." The blunder immediately took the world by surprise, prompting a flurry of reactions. Some were sympathetic towards Miss Colombia, while others were downright angry. In fact, the Miami Herald reported at the time that a Colombian law firm threatened to file a lawsuit, claiming that the crown is an acquired right and cannot be taken away from us. In early 2016, Steve finally took the time to clarify how the disaster happened, and it's pretty simple. Apparently, the name on the teleprompter was a different name to the one that was on the card.
In at number 10, Martin Lawrence. On February 19th, 1994, comedian Martin Lawrence was hosting Saturday Night Live. However, unbeknownst to the writers, he had adjusted his opening monologue a bit. As Lawrence went on about feminine hygiene in some very descriptive ways, Lorne Michaels was absolutely fuming. Following that live audible made by Martin, the monologue was then removed from all repeats and replaced with a voiceover instead. He was banned from ever hosting again, and Lorne would make sure that Martin would never even appear on the show, nor have his name mentioned by the cast. So essentially, Martin Lawrence is the Voldemort of Saturday Night Live. In at number 9, the Kardashians. Minutes after Khloe Kardashian tweeted this out, "I love Anderson Cooper, #SilverFox." Cooper said that if he could ban any guest, it would be the entire Kardashian family. While on Andy Cohen's show, Watch What Happens Live, Cohen and Cooper played a game called Plead the Fifth. The question posed to Anderson was, name one person you would ban from your show forever, and as I mentioned, the Kardashians were thrown quickly under the bus. Although Cooper said that it was all in good fun, we still have yet to actually see any of them appear on his show. Not that they have any political opinions they need to be spewing. In at number 8, Hugh Grant. While some accents may sound charming, Hugh Grant's personality canceled out any of that for Jon Stewart at The Daily Show. After appearing on the show, Jon Stewart said he was banning Grant for being a big pain in the ass. Stewart continued saying that he would never grant him back on the show, unintended. During an onstage Q&A, John remarked that they've had dictators on the show, but Hugh Grant was still his least favorite guest. Apparently, Hugh spent most of the day just complaining that he had to be there and even flat out said that he had better things to be doing, for which the staff of The Daily Show didn't really care to hear, nor did Stewart. So thanks to his high-maintenance attitude, he was banned from the show with zero apologies. In at number 7, Howie Mandel. Now you'd think because these two were co-hosts on the show America's Got Talent that they would have bonded a little bit, but nope. In fact, they probably would have liked each other more if they had never even met. During an interview with Billy Bush and Kit Hoover on Access Hollywood, Pierce said, "I actually want to torture and dismember Howie. He is without a doubt the most annoying man in the history of planet Earth." Those are some harsh words, and after Howie pranked Pierce one too many times, he outright banned Mandel from ever appearing as a guest on his independent live shows. In at number 6, Vince Vaughn. While promoting his new movie The Dilemma, they played a trailer on Ellen to promote the movie, and in the trailer was this line.
"Ladies and gentlemen, electric cars, they're totally gay."
Yeah, he said that on Ellen, live. You gotta imagine the network executives were sweating when that aired. For a long time, Vaughn was banned from ever appearing on the show again. However, after many years had passed and probably a few phone calls apologizing, the pair have made amends, and he did come back on 7 years later. In at number 5, Gilbert Gottfried. With the way Gottfried performs, you would think this rude dude would be a repeat guest on the Howard Stern show. And the funny thing is, no one actually knows why Gilbert was banned from the show in the first place. Some believe that it was from an interaction with Stern's wife, while others think that Howard got sick of having him on. Although Gilbert didn't really seem to care, as you can see from his Instagram post. He also then would team up with fellow band guest Artie Lang to make this video trolling Howard Stern.
Artie and me on with Howard tomorrow. Oh, no. Now, you know what? You can cut.
In at number 4, Jay Leno. Believe it or not, for our next celebrity live TV band, there's a Wikipedia page for it. It's called the 2010 Tonight Show Conflict, and man, oh man, is it jam-packed with late-night talk show drama. Jay Leno had been the host of The Tonight Show since 1992, and Conan had hosted Late Night since 1993. Those shows had excellent ratings, but when Conan's contract was ending, NBC promised him that they would make O'Brien the host of The Tonight Show, which was huge because it was in a much better time slot, and it's obviously a dream for most talk show hosts to do that. However, they neglected to tell Leno about any of this. So when Jay's contract ended, they shifted Conan into The Tonight Show spot, and Jay ended up going before primetime news. Unfortunately, both shows started to tank in the ratings, causing the networks to get nervous. After watching their views decline, they panic and ask the host to switch back. Leno was for it, Conan O'Brien, not so much. He instead took another offer and started his own show simply called Conan. And the first rule he put in order, Jay Leno was banned. In at number 3, Steven Seagal. Back in 1991, Steven Seagal wasn't chomping on carrots and using too much Just for Men in his beard. He was a big action star. So needless to say, most people were excited to see him hosting Saturday Night Live. Unfortunately, the cast found him extremely difficult to work with. Norm Macdonald even said that he told them he didn't want to be in any of the sketches, which is typically something that every host just does. He did eventually oblige their request, but the cast was so fed up with him that they almost did the show with no host at all. Seagal was then banned by Lorne Michaels immediately after for being, as he so eloquently put it, the worst host ever. In fact, in 2014, Michaels told New York Magazine that when Nicolas Cage was hosting, he worried that he wasn't doing well and said during his monologue that he hopes he wasn't the worst host ever. Without missing a beat, Lorne walked on stage to reassure him that no, that was Steve Seagal. In at number 2, Joan Rivers. The late great Joan Rivers was always a recurring and outstanding guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. His show was without a doubt what launched her career, and the two bonded over the years, with Rivers even getting the coveted spot on the couch next to Carson. However, when Joan was approached by several big television networks to start her own show, she did so without telling Johnny Carson. Many other guests had followed a similar trajectory, but each had asked for Johnny's blessing. Putting that on a shirt, they asked for Johnny Carson's approval, essentially. Johnny was devastated when Joan did this without telling him, namely because her show ran opposite him as competition. Carson then had NBC ban Joan Rivers from ever appearing on the show again, a rule that both Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien adhered to well after Johnny had passed away. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Kathy Griffin. Although the photo shoot had nothing to do with the live-to-air show, Kathy Griffin was blacklisted hard when this photo appeared online. In 2017, the comedian became a magnet for controversy after posting a photo of herself holding a ketchup-covered head that looked eerily similar to Donald Trump. I suppose the networks were frightened of this PR disaster, and so Leno, Conan, Ellen, The View, Live with Regis and Kelly, The Today Show, and Letterman all banned Kathy Griffin from coming on live TV. CNN would also go on to announce that they relieved Griffin of her New Year's Eve coverage duties, a job that she had with the network for close to a decade. President Donald Trump even responded to the graphic imagery when he tweeted this out. Kathy Griffin should be ashamed of herself. My children, especially my 11-year-old son, Barron, are having a hard time with this. Sick. Griffin did end up apologizing and said that even as a comedian, she knows that she crossed the line, adding, "The image is too disturbing. I understand how it offends people. It was not funny. I get it."
Unless you're living under a rock, you know that Will Smith showed a completely different side of himself to the world at last night's Oscars. While comedian Chris Rock was speaking to the crowd and taking some digs at the celebrities in the audience, Rock decided to take a jab at Jada Pinkett Smith, and I'm sure he regrets it right about now. Chris said, quote, "Jada, love you, G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it," referencing her almost bald head, because in the movie G.I. Jane, the lead actress Demi Moore had a shaved head. Jada has been open about her struggle with alopecia, and she was likely forced to wear her hair this way because she's not able to grow hair completely. Immediately after the joke, Will Smith decided to get up, interrupt the broadcast, and slap Chris Rock right in the face for millions to see. Chris looked stunned and was not sure exactly how to respond. Will walked back to his seat and yelled, quote, "Shut your mouth, keep your wife's name out of your effing mouth," twice. The internet was set ablaze by this slap, with many not even sure if it was real or just staged for publicity. But considering the aftermath, there's no doubt in my mind that this was a spur-of-a-moment decision from Will. Although many pointed out that Will actually laughed at the joke moments before deciding to get up and slap Chris Rock. Now it's controversial, with many surprisingly defending Will for this slap, claiming Chris Rock's joke was out of line. However, the majority seem to believe it's never right to attack a person and are hoping that Smith faces some sort of repercussion for his actions. Let's get into the reasons why this move might have completely destroyed his career. Firstly, he deflected the blame. Moments after the slap, the award for Best Actor was presented. This was the award that Smith was favored to win. Many were not sure if he would be asked to leave the show, or if the Oscars might actually change the winner to someone else at the last moment. However, he did win the award for his portrayal of Richard Williams in the movie King Richard, based on the father of tennis stars Venus and Serena Williams. When he came up to accept the award, fans were hoping that he would apologize to Chris Rock and the fans, but he did not, and he actually deflected the blame, even comparing himself to Richard Williams. Smith said in part, quote, "Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family. I'm being called in on my life to love people and to protect people and to be a river to my people. I know to do what we do, you gotta be able to take criticism. You gotta be able to have people talk crazy about you. In this business, you gotta be able to have people disrespecting you. And you gotta smile, you gotta pretend like it's okay." He also added, quote, "Love will make you do crazy things." He later apologized to the Academy and his fellow nominees, but many did not think this apology went far enough, especially since he deflected the blame for the action beforehand, blaming his instincts to protect his family for deciding to do an unprecedented action at the most prestigious award show there is. One fan wrote on Twitter after the speech, quote, "All the media outlets tweeting about Will Smith apologizing in his acceptance speech were clearly watching a different awards ceremony. Smith's tearful speech did not include an apology to Chris Rock. So clearly, in my opinion, he is not sorry to Chris Rock." Next up, showed his true colors. Will Smith has been long considered one of the nicest and most humble A-list celebrities there is. But after this incident, people are starting to think differently of him, because no truly nice person would do what Will Smith did. Maybe this is the type of person he's actually been all along, and the nice guy image that he's cultivated is fake, with many comparing him to other celebrities like Ellen DeGeneres, who was exposed for being mean. Many tweets online after the incident accused Smith of showing his true colors with his action. It essentially took him less than 5 seconds to decide to not only physically harm someone, but to disrespect the Oscars and everyone else that was there that night. I guess people will make their own decisions about his character moving forward, but for a lot of fans, their opinion of him has changed. Didn't apologize to Chris Rock.
Since Will Smith won the award for Best Actor just moments after slapping Chris Rock, many thought he would take this time to apologize to Chris Rock for the insane move. But he didn't. He apologized to almost everyone else other than the person that he hit. During his speech, Smith said, quote, "Denzel Washington said to me, at your highest moment, be careful, that's when the devil comes for you." Adding, quote, "I want to apologize to the Academy, I want to apologize to my fellow nominees," at no point mentioning Chris Rock. Then he tried to lighten the mood by saying, quote, "Art imitates life. I look like a crazy father just like they said, but love will make you do crazy things." Other celebrities are vocal against him. After the shocking altercation, some celebrities took to Twitter to share how much they disagree with Will Smith's actions. Director Judd Apatow was probably the most vocal, who said in a series of tweets, quote, "Seems like Will Smith's plan to get comedian and the world not to make jokes about him is not going to pan out. The Williams family must be furious, pure narcissism. Also, G.I. Jane was gorgeous. What exactly is insulting about being compared to a ripped, stunning Demi Moore?" He then replied to a tweet that mentioned that he did what he did because Chris Rock was insulting her alopecia. Apatow doubled down, writing, quote, "He could have killed him. That's pure out of control rage and violence. They've heard a million jokes about them in the last 3 decades. They are not freshmen in the world of Hollywood and comedy. He lost his mind." Apatow has since deleted these tweets. Kathy Griffin also chimed in, tweeting out, quote, "Let me tell you something. It's very bad practice to walk up on stage and physically assault a comedian. Now we all have to worry about who wants to be the next Will Smith in comedy clubs and theaters. Blacklisted from other award shows." It's not a stretch to think that other award shows might not allow Will Smith to attend after he slapped a host while they were presenting. The Academy tweeted after, quote, "The Academy does not condone violence of any form. Tonight we are delighted to celebrate our 94th Academy Awards winners who deserve this moment of recognition from their peers and movie lovers around the world." Clearly, they did not want to publicly trash one of their winners, but I'm sure they are not happy with what took place. And finally, he could get arrested. Just a reminder that what Will Smith did was illegal, and he could have easily been arrested and charged. The LAPD said in a statement after the Oscars, quote, "LAPD investigative entities are aware of an incident between 2 individuals during the Academy Awards program. The incident involved one individual slapping another. The individual involved has declined to file a police report. If the involved party desires a police report at a later date, LAPD will be available to complete an investigative report." So clearly Chris Rock is not deciding to file any charges, thankfully for Will Smith, but if they don't reconcile, nothing is stopping Rock from pressing charges at a later date, so hopefully Will Smith apologizes.
At number 10, Mariah Carey. We all know Mariah Carey as the skinny legend that she is, but lately people have been saying that her career is over. Though she's still out here making music and living her best life, there are some who say that her career is over, and it all ended in 2016 during a live mishap that happened at her New Year's Rockin' Eve performance. After building up to her huge performance at the end of the night, she finally took the stage and didn't sing a single note. When she got up to perform, the music started playing and she just stood there saying that she couldn't hear anything, probably in reference to nothing playing in her earpiece. As the music started playing for the audience, Mariah's dancers kept on going in the background and she shared her mic with the audience, getting them to sing for her, but nothing ever came out of her mouth. It was a letdown for a lot of people, and it got a lot of fans wondering why she didn't sing even though there was music playing. For a while now, people have wondered if she's been lip syncing, and there is some evidence to maybe back this up, but what do you guys think? Is Mariah faking it, and is her career really over? At number 9, Carmen. When you're trying to make a name for yourself, engagement is everything. For a lot of performers, they try to get out in front as many people as possible and attract more fans because doing so will help you grow faster, making you famous. One of the biggest assets you could have when growing your audience is having a successful guest appearance on a late night show like SNL because of how many viewers can tune in and watch you grow. This is how Lana Del Rey started, but this blessing can also be a curse and can end a few careers as well. Carmen was a music duo who got their start on YouTube by posting covers, though now it's been disbanded and rebranded, and there was a time when they almost reached fame after being musical guests on SNL, but after tanking their performance, they lost it all. They had a large following, and so when the casting director over at SNL found them and invited them to perform on the show, things started to look promising. They came on the show and performed their songs Broken Hearted and I Told You So, and after their performance, the reviews came pouring in, and they weren't very positive. They faced a lot of criticism, saying that they failed to connect with the audience, and one review even claimed that the duo's performance caused, quote, mild auditory distress. After this catastrophic performance, things weren't ever the same, and their careers were pretty much over after that night. At number 8, Paula Deen. Paula Deen was once the wholesome southern mom who loved to cook, but after 2013 she took on a very different label after a lawsuit revealed her racist actions to the world. In 2013, Paula was facing legal action from one of her former employees who alleged that Paula was racist towards her and that she had repeatedly been harassed while working at one of her restaurants. After being deposed, the truth came out about Paula when asked if she had ever used the N-word, and she said yes. After this came out, the floodgates opened and backlash ensued. As anyone would do, Paula went on the defense and even sat down for an interview on the Today Show, but instead of owning up to her actions and trying to clear her name, as most people would try to do in that situation, Paula instead deflected the criticism she was facing and even voiced how she was surprised that so many people were taking offense towards her actions. It was thought that this interview was all for publicity, not for making a public apology, and after this, her career was pretty much done for because there was no coming back from this scandal, especially because she never apologized. At number 7, Charles Rocket. The 1980/1981 season of Saturday Night Live was a rocky and controversial one. This all started after executive producer Lorne Michaels took a step back from the show for a year and the position was filled by Gene Dumanian. Because of this position change, most of the cast left, prompting Gene to have to hire a new cast. This new cast was full of new faces and was untested, so at this point the show was facing a lot of criticisms and bad reviews. Things went from bad to worse for everyone after comedian Charles Rocket dropped an F-bomb during a skit. SNL skits have been quite controversial in the past and they still face backlash from time to time, but swearing on live TV was really where the show drew the line, and breaking that cardinal rule could be detrimental to your career. During the season's 11th episode, Charles was closing out the show and decided to let an F-bomb fly while referencing a skit that he did earlier where he said, quote, "This is the first time I've been shot in my life. I'd like to know who the F did it," end quote. People seem to believe that he swore on purpose because if you watch the footage back, there isn't any hesitation when he said it. But it could have just been that he didn't know that he couldn't say it, or he didn't realize that he had said it until later. Either way, this was the last straw for the studio and they fired much of the cast and crew, including Gene and Charles. This whole scandal came so close to sinking the entire show for good, but it did end up destroying Rocket's career after this. At number 6, Jenny Slate. Sometimes your career can make or break you. Doing your job really well can pay off later down the line, but if you mess up, there can be some consequences. The messing up part applies to comedian Jenny Slate because after an incident on SNL cost her job, her career may have been set back a little. Though she's found a lot of success now, back in 2009 when she worked on SNL, she was pretty new to the industry and was looking for something to bring her career to new heights. When she was hired on SNL as a writer and performer, things were looking great for her, but all that excitement turned sour after her first on-air performance. In her first appearance as a member of cast on the show, she was performing one of the sketches that she wrote, and while on air she accidentally switched up one of her lines, making it a little more adult and dropping an F-bomb. She quickly caught herself saying it, but it was too late. Unfortunately, you can't put the words back in once they've left your mouth. She tried to brush it off, pretending like no one else heard it, but unfortunately people did hear it. This mistake stuck with her for the rest of the time that she worked there, and she ended up leaving the show after one season. She was fired at the end of the season, not necessarily because of the F-bomb incident, but because she, quote, "didn't do a good job and didn't click." Because she got fired from such a big-time production, it took a little for her to get back on her feet, but she's been doing great since. A minor setback, but nothing major. At number 5, Ashley Simpson. This is one of the cringiest SNL moments and is sometimes referred to as the worst moment in SNL history. Though that's a bit of an extreme title, it was a doozy of a scandal and no one was quick to forget about it, especially Ashley. In 2004, Ashley Simpson was invited on SNL as their musical guest to perform a few songs to promote her newest album at the time, Autobiography. She planned to perform a few songs from said album, and things went off without a hitch as she got into her first song, Pieces of Me. Her performance went pretty well and she got the audience hyped for another song, but that's when things started to go south. As the band set up for the next song, music started playing, but it wasn't what anyone was expecting to hear. A vocal track for Pieces of Me started playing again instead of the next song in her set, revealing that Ashley had been lip-syncing that whole time. She froze on stage, clearly embarrassed, and then she started doing a little embarrassing dance before running off the stage as the show cut to commercial. She tried to brush it off later when they came back on the air, but the cringe was just too much for people to handle. Later on, we found out that Ashley was advised by her father to have the vocal track and just lip sync because she'd been suffering from some severe acid reflux that had been causing damage to her vocal cords, and he just wanted her to rest her voice a little. It was only good intentions that got her into that predicament, but people say that this was the moment that destroyed her career. At number 4, Janet Jackson. The Super Bowl halftime show is the one moment a year that millions of people tune in to watch the same thing. People turn off their reality TV programs and reruns of Jeopardy to grab a snack and watch the year's biggest performance. Well, during the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show, viewers watched a serious wardrobe malfunction happen that was life-changing to say the least. Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake were performing together when a move went wrong and Janet's breast ended up getting exposed. Following the incident, the media dubbed Nipplegate, the FCC sued CBS for the live incident in a $550,000 lawsuit citing indecent exposure for their cause. Janet Jackson was really put through the ringer for her part in the whole scandal. As a result, she was uninvited to the Grammy Awards that year, and her songs were blacklisted from the radio. Even the next few albums that she released following the incident was met with negative reviews because of the scandal. If this were to happen now, I doubt she would have been met with such severe backlash. Do you? It was later discovered that this whole incident happened because the two performers had added a costume reveal into their performance at the last minute, and though it was rehearsed, the stunt failed at the last minute, resulting in Janet's exposure. It was all just an accident that ended up destroying someone's career. At number 3, Sinead O'Connor. SNL has been hit with controversies in the past, but I think one of the biggest ones I can think of is the one surrounding Sinead O'Connor, the Catholic Church, and SNL. On October 3rd, 1992, Sinead was invited on the show and was asked to perform a few songs from her newest album at the time, and she agreed, but had one request. Instead of performing one of her original songs, she opted to sing a cover of Bob Marley's song War. Though it was a bit of a bizarre request, they allowed it, and so Sinead got up on stage and performed a very dramatic rendition of the song, even switching up some of the lyrics to change the context and meaning. Her performance all led up to where Sinead really made a huge statement where she tore up a photo of the Pope saying, quote, "Fight the real enemy." Apparently, this whole performance was designed to be a stunt as a means to raise awareness about how the Catholic Church had allegedly been hurting people. Sinead recalled having known people who were hurt by members of the church, and she wanted to fight back on their behalf. Well, instead of this helping people like she wanted it to, it instead killed her career, as for the days following this live stunt, the network received thousands of angry calls. Even some celebrities spoke out condemning Sinead for this. Her career never really recovered from this moment, but she still stands by her decision to pull the stunt anyway. At number 2, Milli Vanilli. In the 90s, there was a huge music scandal that ended careers and ended in tragedy. The lip sync scandal that surrounded Milli Vanilli was one of music's biggest scandals, and it revealed that they were never really a real group and that everything was fake. This stage act was put together by German record producer Frank Farian as he attempted to create the next biggest music stars. It worked in theory, but they fell from grace as quickly as they rose. He had a vision to be able to release amazing music, but he needed the perfect people to sell it, and that's where Morvan and Politis came into play. These two dancers were hired to be the bright, shining faces of Milli Vanilli, and though it was a musical act, they never had to sing. In fact, they lip-synced their entire career. Their act was a hit, and it worked for a while, even earning themselves a Grammy for their song Girl You Know It's True, but like all good things, they can never last. Milli Vanilli conquered the Billboard charts, they were asked to tour and perform live, but things started to get difficult for them since this act never really sang, and playing pretend on stage just wasn't cutting it. Eventually, they were caught in the act, so to speak, as their track suddenly stopped working during a live performance, revealing that they were faking it all along. This took a big toll on Morvan and Politis, especially on their mental health, driving Politis to take his own life. And finally, at number 1, Natalia Kills. How mean is too mean? Well, for former X Factor New Zealand judge Natalia Kills, she was too mean. After casting some harsh judgment on an X Factor contestant, Natalia was dubbed a bully and saw her career go down the tubes as a result. On the show's second season, contestant Joe Irvin performed a rendition of Michael Bublé's Cry Me a River, and when he finished his performance, that is when all hell broke loose. Natalia criticized his performance harshly, saying that he was a copycat of her husband, saying that he made her feel disgusted and sick. She also said, quote, "As an artist who respects creative integrity and intellectual property, I'm disgusted at how much you have copied from my husband. From the hair to the suit, do you not have any value or respect for originality? You are a laughingstock, it's cheesy, it's disgusting. I personally found it absolutely artistically atrocious," end quote. A lot of people were shocked at how harsh her criticisms were, and so many people were appalled by Natalia's behavior that a petition was made to have her and another judge who was also a little too harsh removed from the show. The petition worked and they were both booted midway through the season. Following this incident, Natalia was shunned and even went as far as changing her name to deflect some of the scrutiny that she was facing. Her career was truly over after this moment.
Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is Cardi B. She exposed herself on this one when she decided to get into a fight at the 2018 New York Fashion Week party. It's not technically an award show, it was a Harper Bazaar Icons party, but this story is honestly just too good not to include. Video clips and pictures started going viral online after a fight started between Cardi B and Nicki Minaj and ended with Cardi throwing her red heels at Nicki. Bodyguards were holding them back and it was pure chaos, not to mention very strange seeing them have this like petty altercation while wearing beautiful gowns and high heels. We later found out why they were fighting when Cardi posted about it on social media and said that Nicki brought up her parenting and that was when she lost it. Apparently Nicki made comments about her as a mother and things just happened to heat up when she confronted her about it at the party. Time and place, ladies, for an altercation. Time and place. In spot number 9, we have Joe Jonas. He was hoping for a bad entrance instead of an embarrassing moment during his performance at the AMA Awards in 2007. What sucked the most was that his accident happened at the very beginning of the performance, so he just had to shake it off and continue. What happened was the performance started with 3 glass panels in front of each of the Jonas Brothers, and then they shattered in front of them before they made their entrance onto the stage. But Joe tripped as he crossed the threshold and fell to the ground and cut his hand on broken glass. He got up quickly and continued on with his performance despite visibly bleeding from the gash on the palm of his hand. When asked about it backstage, he just shrugged it off and said, "It is just a little blood. Look like you need stitches, bro, but that's alright." Moving on to number 8, we have Faith Hill. This incident had fans baffled at first because people were confused and shocked with her reaction at the Country Music Awards in 2006. The winner was announced for the Female Vocalist of the Year, and Faith Hill was one of the nominees amongst other singers, including Carrie Underwood. When their winner was announced, Carrie had won, and the camera showed Faith's reaction to her win, and she was angry. She screamed, "What?" and stormed away, and of course people reacted to her reaction. It looked like she was freaking out over the loss, but then she later came back and said that it was a joke. She said, "The idea that I would act disrespectful towards a fellow musician is unimaginable to me. Carrie is a talented and deserving Female Vocalist of the Year." I don't get the joke. Why would you do that? It like ruined the moment because I was watching your reaction instead of Carrie's. Anyways, okay, funny joke, Faith. Sniping our number 7 spot is Beyonce. She's definitely not to blame for this one, as we all know accidents can happen during a live performance. Malfunctions happen all the time, and hers just so happened at the MTV European Music Awards back in 2003. What is an artist supposed to do when their backtrack starts going crazy? It was during her performance of Baby Boy when her backtrack started skipping and kept repeating one line over and over again. The line was, "Baby boy, you are so damn fine." At first, she kept her performance going while trying to like sing over the soundtrack, but eventually she just gave up. As it clearly was not going in her favor. She ended up just waving to the audience and walking off stage. I would have done the same. I mean, when your track is skipping, like, no one's gonna hear what you're singing at that point. Halfway through our list at number 5 is the Pussycat Dolls. It's hard to imagine them having a bad performance because they are always on point with their vocals and choreography. But one performance stands out more than the rest, and that's because it did not go as planned. It was at the 2006 AMAs when they had a very strange performance of their song Buttons. At one point, one of the chairs they had in the choreography fell over halfway through the performance. But the more bizarre part was when one of the dolls showed up on stage with only 40 seconds left in the song, and then from there, things just got weird very fast. She came into the song and started singing over Nicole, the lead singer, in this off-pitch, very high tune, while the other girls just continued their choreography, which she wasn't a part of because she's late and showed up with 40 seconds left. Honestly, I watched the clip, I've never seen it before, and it was the most awkward performance I've ever seen. People watching at home were obviously very confused and wondered why she even showed up to the performance with only 40 seconds left. Just let them continue their choreography and song. They were killing it. It was so weird, so weird. In spot number 4, we have J-Lo. She exposed herself during one of her performances, but it definitely was not planned. Back in 2009, she took a fall during her performance at the AMAs while she was attempting this little mini stunt. Her choreography had her climb up the other dancers as human stairs, and then when she reached the top, she jumped off really high into the air, not expecting to land on her butt. The good news is J-Lo is a pro and she shook it off like it didn't even happen. She jumped up immediately after falling down and she was able to finish her performance, which was a knockout, by the way. It looked painful, not gonna lie, but it was a quick mishap that she handled like a champ. Taking over the 3rd spot is Sam Smith. His embarrassing fail was one big misunderstanding, but people didn't know that until after it had already happened. At the 2016 Oscars, he was accepting the award for Best Original Song, and during his speech he implied that he was the first openly gay man to win an Oscar. He said he was referring to a quote from Ian McKellen, but McKellen had been responding to a question about openly gay actors. So when Sam Smith was apparently quoting him, it sounded like he was saying that he was the first openly gay man to win an award. But people quickly said men like Elton John and many other people paved the way for him in the industry. Turns out though that is not what Sam was trying to say, and he made sure to clear that up, but people were already judging him by that point, thinking that's what he meant. Taking over the number 2 spot is Angelina Jolie. This is by far the weirdest award show moment of all time, and many people, including myself, are still very confused by it. Angelina both shocked and confused people in 2000 when she attended the Oscar Awards and kissed her brother on the lips on the red carpet. Not like a quick kiss, like when you're greeting someone, you're like a quick little thing. No, it was like this big, romantic looking, strange kiss. She had won the award for Best Supporting Actress that night, and in her acceptance speech she gave thanks to her brother, who she claimed to be in love with. She said, "I'm in shock and I'm so in love with my brother right now. He just held me and said he loved me, and I know he's happy for me, and thank you for that." Then later in the evening she posed for photographers with her award in hand and her brother by her side, and that is when they shared this kiss on the lips. Obviously, the media was going crazy about it, but when she was asked about it, she said it was nothing more than brotherly love and that her parents loved the picture of them kissing. This is so weird to me, y'all. And our number 1 spot is Nicki Minaj. While she exposed herself at the same time, she was actually trying to expose Miley Cyrus when she called her out in front of everyone at the 2015 VMAs. Celebrity drama happens all the time, so that's no surprise, but to start an argument during the middle of an award show is really not the time or place. Miley was hosting the show and found herself in a scandal right in the middle of her hosting gig. Nicki was accepting the award for Best Hip Hop Video for Anaconda, and while giving her speech, she looked across the room to the other stage that Miley was on and said, "And now back to this bitch that had a lot to say about me the other day in the press. Miley, what's good?" The whole room went silent immediately, and it was super uncomfortable to watch. Miley herself looked totally shocked, and she tried to quickly recover just by saying the media often twist their words. The two of them later worked it out off stage, but the award show was hella awkward.